The Language of the Heart. Based on passages from When the Moon Set Over Haifa by Angelina Diliberto Allen, shared courtesy of the US Baha'i Publishing Trust, select images courtesy of the Baha'i International Community. In 1912, John Bosch travelled by train from California to New York to meet Abdu'l-Baha. He recounted, with a warm, wholesome handshake, Abdu'l-Baha greeted me and said, "I have been longing to see you." He offered me a chair and to be seated close to where he was seated. Abdu'l-Baha ordered the tea served, of the most delicious brew. I had a pocket full of questions from the West, but never gave them to Abdu'l-Baha, for he told me all that I wanted to know. I said to Abdu'l-Baha, "I regret very much that I have not the capacity as a teacher and am by nature rather reserved in talking, and that the work I have been doing in the cause was mostly in the line of universal peace and by circulating books and pamphlets." Abdu'l-Baha looked directly at me, put his hand on my shoulder and said, "You are doing well. You are doing better than talking. It is not always the elaborate talking, the movement of the lips, that would accomplish results. It is the heart that is powerful. With you, it is not words. Your heart talks." John was, indeed, a man of few words. On one occasion, John found himself at a complete loss for words when Abdu'l-Baha pulled him into a taxi. He seemed very tired, and he immediately put his arm around my waist, put his head on my left shoulder, and with a big sigh, fell asleep. We were bound for the home of Mr. and Mrs. Edward Kinney for dinner, and the believers expected that the drive would afford Abdu'l-Baha an opportunity to see the streets and public buildings of New York. But instead of looking at all the big buildings, to our surprise, he had a restful nap. It would not be the last time Abdu'l-Baha would rest on John's shoulder. While in New York, Abdu'l-Baha told John that he was as a member of his family. This sentiment turned out to be a true characterization of the way in which John and Louise, his wife, were received when they arrived in Haifa 9 years later in November 1921. For example, Abdu'l-Baha invited John to the last public meeting for the Persian Friends at his home before his passing, and he opened the meeting by speaking directly to John. "Although you are here with these assembled friends and cannot speak with them nor they with you, yet you can speak with one another through the heart. The language of the heart is even more expressive than the language of the tongue, and is more truthful and has a wider reach and a more potent effect. When lovers meet, it may be that they cannot exchange a single word, yet with their hearts they speak to one another. Thus do the clouds speak to the earth, and the rain comes down. The breeze whispers to the trees. This is the way in which the hearts of the friends talk together. It is the harmony between two persons, and this harmony is of the hearts." After the passing of Abdu'l-Baha, a special honour awaited John. It was the sacred privilege of helping to place the precious body of Abdu'l-Baha into his coffin, and to assist in bearing the coffin upon his right shoulder. It was carried from the room where he had ascended, out the front door, down the steps and through the gate, along the short streets to the road which led up Mount Carmel, To mark the centenary of the ascension of Abdu'l-Baha, the Universal House of Justice wrote to the Baha'is of the world, "No clearer demonstration could be imagined of how he embodied the forces of unity than the sight of his funeral, at which a vast crowd of mourners from every creed in this land came together to grieve their common loss. In his day, so many of the friends who embraced the faith absorbed the spirit of the divine teachings simply by observing him. Still today, if we wish to align our lives with that same spirit, we look to the example set by the Master, whose word and deed reflected the brilliance of the light that shone from Baha'u'llah's revelation."